Good afternoon, Mike D here again. Recap of the Betway NHRA Carolina Nationals. Great event, folks. Glad you guys can tune in. If you're listening later on, whenever you want to listen to it, it's great to hear. Great for you guys to support me. Let's get started. Top Fuel, NHRA Betway Carolina Nationals. What an event it was. I don't think there was a single person there who was disappointed by the results, by the performances. We've seen some of the best runs of the year over this past weekend. And once again, Doug Kalita won. Alan Johnson, and I said so last week, I don't think that canopy car is coming back. Alan Johnson, Doug Kalita, qualified number in the number 3 position. Round 1, they had Steve Torrance. Now, who wants to face Steve Torrance in round 1? I wouldn't. I don't think anybody wants to face Torrance in round 1. But who foresaw Steve Torrance struggling, qualifying 12th with a 372? I mean, how often does that happen? You qualify 12th and you run 372. 372 and you're 12th. But that was what took place with Steve Torrance. He had Doug Kalita in round 1. Kalita qualified number 3. And then guys wonder it was not a full field, so 3 ended up racing 12, whatever the case may be. And it was not a by far easy race for Doug. 371 to a 372. He defeats Steve Torrance. Steve Torrance goes out in round 1. Yeah, Steve Torrance, my pick, out round 1. Thanks to Doug Kalita, 371 to a 372. Doug then goes into the second round, and he has his teammate, Sean Langdon. Langdon has some issues, puffs the tires. Kalita goes 374, 333 miles an hour. I don't believe there were any team orders there. That lane was tricky. That track had gotten tricky by round 2. Langdon wasn't the only guy who smoked the tires. Doug then moved on to the semis, where he raced Leah Pruitt. Leah goes 377 to Doug's 374. Doug was 070 on the tree. Leah 131. Leah 131. We've talked about it before. I mean, if she's 040, she probably wins this race. She does win this race. We'll speak on more on that later. Doug then goes to the finals. And Alan Johnson was ready. 369 to Mike Salinas' 371. Doug was 076 on the tree. Mike was a little quicker with an 065. Doug came around him. 369, 333 miles an hour for Doug. Mike Salinas goes 371 at 328 miles an hour. Doug Kalita goes back-to-back, 51 wins, has the points lead. Enough said. I don't think that canopy car is coming back. Not this year. I mean, it had an unfortunate circumstance where it blew a tire in the 4th session in Reading. They brought out the backup car, and the backup car, I mean, that seems to be the primary car now. So what does this do for the points? Well, like I just said, it puts Doug in first. And you then have Steve Torrance, 633 behind in second. If you're Steve Torrance, I mean, you can only blame yourself for qualifying 12th, but I mean, you did run a low 370 and you still qualified 12th. Just was not a good weekend. Just wasn't enough. Justin Ashley, remember that guy? Well, he's third. This is the guy who was eating up all the potato chips, mission food points, and won the most races on the season. Countdown started, and he hasn't yet. Gone round 1. Qualified 7th. Races Leah round 1. Leah 370, 333. Justin 492. Tire smoking. Thanks for coming. And guys might be wondering what's wrong with Justin Ashley. Are they folding under the pressure? What's going on? Honestly, I don't know. For a team that was so consistent throughout the year, piling up wins, mission food points, they just haven't gotten their act together since this countdown started. Granted, we're only 2 races in. You got 4 left. A lot can happen in these next 4 races. But if you're Justin Ashley, you probably need it to happen sooner than later. You go out round 1 next week, and this championship's probably over for Justin Ashley. Just my thoughts. We'll see. Only time will tell. Moving down to the points bracket. Leah. Leah's number 4. Leah has had a great car during this countdown. Remember, she lost to Doug on a hole shot in the semis at Reading. She lost to Doug in the semis in Carolina. 377 to a 374. She was 131 on the tree. We've talked about it before. She's hit or miss. And there she missed. If Leah goes 040 on the tree, she wins this race. If Leah leaves on time or ahead of Doug in the last 2 races, you're talking at a big point swing. Doug isn't even the points lead. Leah is. Leah could theoretically be the points leader right now if she can just get off the starting line on time. Even though she ran quicker, Doug wasn't no sniper at 070 on the tree. I mean, Leah could have won that race. But as the countdown stands right now, she's 4th in points, and she probably has the most consistent car over the last 2 races outside of Doug Coletta. Leah and Doug probably have the best 2 cars right now. Not probably, they do. She's only 76 out. She needs to get it together, though, on a starting line. The crew's doing their job. The car's doing what it's supposed to do. If Leah can get it together on the starting line, big things can happen from that team. There will be a player when we get to Pomona. 5th in points, Antron Brown. Antron ran career best numbers over the weekend, qualified number 2. Round 1, he has Spencer Massey. Remember that guy? Spencer doesn't run a whole lot of races, but has a very competitive car with that Dakin car. Well, they made Antron hold his own. 374 for Massey, 368 for Antron in round 1. Antron moves on to the next round, where him and Leah are pretty much in a pedal fest, so to speak. Antron 505, Leah 382. Neither car performing like it should have. I believe Leah's car put a hole out, ran 319 miles an hour. Antron was gone round 2. Pretty much the end of a great, what seemed to be a potentially great weekend for Antron Brown. Didn't quite end up that way. He was gone in the second round. I'm sure that's not what that team wanted. They're now 5th in the point standings. Not out of it by any means, only 92 back. They still have some catching up to do. With Pomona paying 30 points per round, anything can happen. But we're at the point now where no one really needs a first-round loss. If you had a first-round loss, you needed to get it out of the way in the first 2 races, which is why I said Justin Ashley doesn't need any more first-round losses, or it might be over for that guy. I can say the same about Leah and Antron, but Leah and Antron's cars have showed me that they can get out of the first round and they can run consistent. Justin's hasn't. I don't know what's wrong with Justin's car, but it hasn't. Brittany Force, 6 in points. Defending champ, 6 in points. 106 back. With the conditions we saw, we were expecting to see the big numbers out of Brittany. That simply did not happen to the extent that people would have thought. She qualified 4th in round 1. She ran a 373 to beat Clay Milligan's 377. She then comes up in the second round against her teammate Austin Prock. She goes 483 to Austin's 465. They were both pedaling the cars down the track, an old-fashioned dragster pedal fest. Brittany came out on the short end of that one. Austin then went to the next round. Brittany Force gone round 2. This is not, with the testing, the new combination, everything that took place, not what this team was looking for going into the first 2 races of the countdown. Grubnick's got to get this thing figured out, but we've been saying it all year. We're waiting on her to turn the corner, and she hasn't yet. She has not yet. And if this car doesn't pick up the performance like it did at the end of last year, like it did all of last year when it was just setting top speed and track records after track records, they're not going to repeat. There will be no number one on the side of that wing come next season if this car doesn't pick it up within the next 4 races. They're 106 back. There's still time. 4 races out, 4 races left, 6 in points, 106 back, but they need to make the move now. Take advantage of any possible advantage and make the move now if you're Brittany Force. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think they've gotten to the point to where they've been working on this combination, trying to figure this car out. We're 2 races into the countdown, and it's still not showing the consistency that it needs. That's going to put another championship with that team. But with 4 races left, we'll find out. 7th in points, Mike Salinas. Now, Mike Salinas is a different story. In qualifying, the first car to run 300 mile an hour to the 8th. That's right. The first car in NHRA history to set a speed of 300 miles an hour to the 8th. Though they run to the 1,000 foot, by the time that car got to the 8th mile, 660 feet, it was running 300 miles an hour. Congratulations to Mike Salinas and those guys. Truly a remarkable achievement. Honestly, when it took place, I kind of forgot all about it till they announced it. They've been talking about it all year. First to 300 at to the 8th. And as qualifying's going down, you knew conditions were right, but it was something that just totally slipped my mind. I just couldn't. Then they announced it. They announced it. It was like, wow. Kind of caught me by surprise. Not that it was Mike Salinas, that it just happened then. I really was not prepared for it or hadn't been thinking about it. And Mike did it. He absolutely did it. Congratulations to that team. And then he made it to the finals. A truly great weekend for Mike, who had a not so great weekend in Reading, probably the worst weekend he's had in a long time in Reading. He qualified number 1, goes 368, beat Mike Butcher in round 1. In the second round, they had a bye. They smoked the tires, but who knows? They were probably trying things, seeing what the track could hold. Semifinals against Austin Prock. 389 is good enough to hold off Prock's 418. He goes to the final against Doug Coletta. 371 for Mike Salinas, 369 for Doug. As we spoke about earlier, Mike Salinas finishes runner-up. Mike has nothing to hold his head down about. Great weekend for that team. That is what that team needed if they were going to make a run for this championship. Granted, they're still 7th. They're 119 back. But after that horrible weekend in Reading, where they just couldn't get anything right and was gone round 1, to rebound, make it to the finals, run those type of numbers to the 8th is certainly the lift that team need moving forward. 8th in points, Austin Prock. He's 154 back, and if you were to say that it's over as far as championships aspirations for this year, if he won't say it, I will. It's over. 154 back. 8th in points. That's just too many cars. You have to leapfrog. Too many points back. Not enough races. It's unfortunate because Austin does have a great car. He seems to have that car that just loses all the close races throughout the weekends. He's that guy that has the second or third quickest one in the round. He's just going against the wrong guy that round. He did get out of the first round this weekend. He ran a 372 and beat Josh Hart's 510. He then beat his teammate, as we spoke about, Brittany Force, in the second round before losing to Mike Salinas in the semis. It wasn't a bad weekend for Austin. It's just too much ground to make up to make a run at the championship this year. Now, we seen them last year crawl from the pit and finish in the top 3. I don't foresee that happening this year. I don't. Anything's possible, but I don't see it being possible. Sean Langdon, 9th. 183 back, much like Austin Prock. Langdon's role now is become protect Doug Kalita, blocker. Sean Langdon is now the blocker. You're ninth in points. You're 183 back. Yeah, we'll run for a win if it's there. But your job now is to help Doug Kalita win his first championship, Sean. Your car has gotten better. You've had a decent car all year, despite what the points say. It's been decent. It's ran good numbers since the hanging those low to mid 70s. But as far as this year's championship, not going to happen. Not going to happen. He did get out of the first round, and he did end up racing Doug Kalita in the second round. I'm not saying Sean laid down that round. I don't think he did. But moving forward, blocker. Your job, take out the guys, protect Doug's points lead, get Doug his first championship. 10th, Tony Schumacher. Now, this is a car I was hard on first couple episodes. Wasn't running the numbers, wasn't very competitive. Seemed to be about 800s off everyone. This car has shown a lot of life over the last two races. A lot of life. The problem is it started showing it too late in the year. I believe they started in the 12th position. They're now up to 10th, so they've been going rounds. They've been running very well. Even though they lost the first round, they smoked the tires against Sean Langdon. The car is showing a lot of promise looking forward to next season. If you ask me, that's what they're looking forward to at this point. Testing, getting ready for next year. Try to move into points as much as you can at the same time. As far back as they are, 195 out, pretty much 2 races out. There will be no championship for the Sarge, for the Skag Powered Equipment Top Fuel Dragster this year. At this point, you just want a season saver. Get a win or two if you can. Move up in the points, possibly top 5 if possible. That's about it. Not hard to do, but hard to do. He's got to climb over some great cars that are still in the thick of it. But he now has a car that you cannot look past. It can run with anybody, as it's shown over the past few races, the past 2 races really. It's really shown some promise. Mike Neff seems to have that thing running pretty well, a lot better than it did before. But once again, he's not going to win a championship this year. Tony Schumacher is not going to win. For all you Tony Schumacher fans, I'm sorry. He's not going to win a championship this year. Unfortunate, but true. Guys, 11th, 12th in points. Clay Milligan, Josh Hart, first round losers. They lost in the first round. Unfortunate, but true. As it stands right now, Doug Kalita, who this is what Alan Johnson was brought in for, to win a championship, to turn that team around, give Doug his first championship. And it took a while, but that is exactly what's taking place at this moment. Hopefully, anything can happen in the next 4 races, but the way Alan's got this car running, it's consistent, it's quick, it's got Alan's hands all over it. It took a year and a half, but at this point, I don't think Connie Kalita minds how long it took. If it continues this performance, Connie will be smiling from ear to ear. Kalita's leading the points. Steve-O, right there. Steve Torrance, second, 63 back. Justin Ashley, 68 back. Justin can't afford to have any more bad races like he's had. Believe he lost first round this week, second round last week. Should have been gone the first round in Reading as well. That team's got to get it together. Leah's got to get her lights together. Antron, just a little more consistency. Brittany, a lot more consistency. Mike Salinas, continue to do what you do. Those 7 is who I got running for everything. We'll see as the season goes on over the next 4 races, but between those 7, that's where it lays at. Funny car. Yeah, funny car. Bob Tasker. Well, Bob's having a career season, ladies and gentlemen. He's having a career year. He wins the race, beats Robert Height in the final. They both run 393. Bob qualified number 3 with it in the number 3 position. First round, he goes 387, beats Alexis, who ran a 669. She pretty much smoked the tires. Alexis was 127 on the tree. Tasker was 065. Round 2, Tasker again in the 80s, 389. Haddock, 429. Semifinals, 393. Hagen, 395. Finals, Robert Height, 393. Tasker, 393. Tasker essentially wins on the whole shot. He was 050 on the tree. Robert was 091. Tasker wins the race. Tasker's enjoying life. Tasker's enjoying his best season in quite a while. Last year wasn't so bad, but they fell off around the countdown time. This year, it looks like they're holding their head up and they're swimming and they're treading. So as it stands right now, Tasker's second. He's only 25 points behind Robert Height. You get to Pomona, that's less than a round. That's less than a round. Speaking of Robert Height, we'll get back to Tasker in a minute because you want to congratulate that Ford Quick Lane Motorcraft car for their great weekend. They had truly a great weekend, and congratulations to that team. Robert Height still leading the points, made it to the finals. Weekend did not start off the greatest. Q1 had a mechanical issue, grenaded the car right off the start line, bounced back, qualified number 1. Jimmy Prock then, he actually had a bye in the first round. Knowing Jimmy, he was testing the track, probably trying to go 380. 370, he runs, smoked the tires, 7.47 seconds. No one's in other lines, so it didn't really matter. Second round, Robert Height has Paul Lee. Paul Lee has a decent car, much better than it had been running earlier in the year. He qualified number 9, but he did run 391 in the first round when he beat J.R. Todd. Paul Lee has a very good car. Robert couldn't take him lightly. Well, he kind of took him lightly. Still got the win. 107 on the tree for Robert to Lee's 073. 396 for Height, 464 for Lee. Height then goes to the semis where he goes against Alex Laughlin. Yeah, you're probably wondering where'd he come from. We'll get to that in a minute. Height, 393. Laughlin, 420. Height then goes to the finals, loses to Tasker on a whole shot. I'm sure that's one Robert wish he can have back. Still, considering how the weekend started, Height, Jimmy Prock still have the points lead. Do they have the car to beat? Possibly. They had some wins earlier in the year, and then they kind of fell off the planet there for a moment. But over the last 2 or 3 races, they've shown who they are and who they can be. And if this consistency keeps up, they're going to be there in Pomona. In fact, let's make no bones about it. They're going to be there in Pomona. Robert Height is going to be there in Pomona. Who's going to join him? Let's find out. We'll see soon. One guy who I believe is going to join him, who had a pretty bad weekend himself, was Ron Capps. Ron Capps, this was not a great weekend for Capps. Like Height, he blew his car up on the top end and grenaded it. Qualified number 5. Round 1, he goes against Dave Richards. Dave Richards comes out. He's been racing the last few races. He does not have a car that should beat Ron Capps. He has a car that will run a 4.0, maybe in the high 390s, whatever the case may be. But it shouldn't be a problem for Capps. Well, he was a problem for Capps. Capps was a problem for Capps. Let's just be honest. Capps was a problem for Capps. 472 for Capps, tire smoking. Dave Richards muddles on through there at a 417 at 299 miles an hour. Thanks for coming, Capps. I don't know what, how, or why. Maybe there was a mechanical glitch. I can't believe that they were pushing that car that hard to beat Dave Richards. If they were, shame on them. Why? The lanes were pretty much equal. There was no reason to. But There could have been a mechanical glitch. There could have been anything. You don't know. Dave Richards then goes to the next round and goes against Alex Laughlin. The battle of the underdogs. Jim Dunn, Alex Laughlin, Dave Richards. Richards then lost to Alex Laughlin, 871 to Laughlin's 420. Laughlin, who I did spoke on earlier, lost to Robert Hite. But back to Caps. That is not a round you're supposed to lose. Not in the countdown. You cannot lose rounds like that in the first round against competition like that. Inferior competition that you should easily, they don't run these things on paper. You're right. Everyone knows that. We don't run these things on paper. But Caps, that is a car you should have beaten, and you didn't. And it makes you wonder, will that round come back and haunt Ron Caps come Pomona? We will find out. Fourth in points, Matt Hagan. Matt's just kind of plugging his way through there. He had a decent weekend, qualified well. Nothing to write home about, but nothing to feel bad about either. He made it to the semifinals. He lost to Bob Tasca. He qualified second, goes 386 in the first round, beats John Smith. Tim Wilkerson in round two, no easy task, goes 399 at 313. I believe Hagan had a hole out on that run. Wilkerson smoked the tires with a 454. Then loses a very close race. He's 054 on the tree. The Tasca's 066. Hagan goes 395. Tasca goes 393. Tasca ekes out the win to go to the finals, but not a bad weekend for Hagan whatsoever. I'm sure they wanted more, but at the same time, they'll take it. It wasn't as bad as Caps this weekend. You're still there in the points. You have nothing to hang your head about if you're Hagan, especially at those numbers in qualifying at 382. I mean, Hagan's going to be a player. You know he's going to be there in Pomona. You can't count Matt Hagan out. I mean, Hagan's a car we all know can win the next two races, but so can Caps. And right now, so could Tasca. And so could Hite. Those are the heavy four. Tasca 25 out, Caps 69 out. Hagan tied with Caps 69 out in fourth. Pretty much a tie for third or fourth place, however you want to view it. Chad Green then in fifth, 132 points out if you're Chad Green. Chad Green's having a great season for that team. Daniel Wilkerson. You can't take anything away from those guys except that you shouldn't lose to Terry Haddock in round one. That can't happen. No one was putting championship on Chad Green, but I mean, this car could possibly have snuck in there, maybe finished third or fourth in points. Still could. You can't lose to Terry Haddock round one. You've been in the 80s in the weekend. You had a great car. He goes 452 to Haddock's 415. Thanks for coming, Chad. Haddock, who was having another good weekend, then went to round two, lost to Bob Tasca with a 429 to Tasca's 389. But if you're Chad Green, the thing that made Chad Green was that he beat the guys he was supposed to beat. And if you made a mistake, he beat you as well, the guys he weren't supposed to beat. And that's what kind of made this guy that semifinal fixture. Can't lose to Terry Haddock round one. But at the end of the day, hey, he's fifth in points, 132 out. It's a lot of ground to make up if you're going to do anything as far as a championship. But I'm pretty sure if Chad Green was to finish top five in points, that team would be thrilled. I mean, who saw Chad Green finishing fifth in points when the season started? I didn't. And I'm sure most people didn't. Maybe 8th, 9th, or 10th. But 5th? I mean, right now, Chad Green is ahead of Alexis DeJoria, ahead of Tim Wilkerson, ahead of J.R. Todd, ahead of John Force. I mean, Chad Green has a good car. Take nothing away from him. We just didn't see him finishing in the top 5 in points when the season started. Now I do. And I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. Alexis DeJoria, 168 back. Yeah, at this point, you're kind of like in a Tony Schumacher role, Alexis. You're just looking for a season saver or win maybe here or there, winning an event or two, hopefully. Trying to make something of the year. You've had a great car, horrible lights. Granted, it wouldn't have mattered, even though you were 127 on the tree. Your car smoked the tire against Bob Tasker in round one anyway. It's unfortunate because we love Alexis. Everyone likes Alexis. How can you not like Alexis? I mean, great person to talk to. The combination just has not come together. When the car's ready, the driver isn't. And sometimes when the driver's ready, whenever that may be, in some cases the car isn't. In this case, neither were ready. She was 127. The car smoked the tires. Thanks for coming. End of the weekend. Qualified 14th at that. So it's not like they were lighting it up doing qualifying either. Further on in the standings, J.R. Todd. This poor guy just can't catch a break. The car runs good numbers. He just races the wrong guy. Unfortunate but true. Round one, 394. Paul Lee, 391. Todd's 064 on the tree. Not a great light, but not bad. Paul Lee's 056. Thanks for coming, Todd. Todd has a car that's better than his points show. He's just racing, kind of like that Austin Prock thing. He's just going up against the wrong guy at the wrong time. And it sucks for JR that's happening, but that's drag racing. That is drag racing. So now he's sitting back, 8th in points, 176 back. There will be no championship this year for J.R. Todd. Unfortunate, but true. But you know what? There won't be one for John Force either, because he's 195 back, and he's 9th in points. And for as great as this car can run in qualifying, which qualified 4th, him, like Ron Capps, suffered the same fate. What are you doing losing to Alex Laughlin round one? Alex runs a 413, Force smokes a tire at a 936. Thanks for coming, John. Why are you even pushing it that hard against Alex Laughlin? Alex Laughlin, we know what he's going to do. The car's going to run somewhere between a 398 at best and a 420. It's going to chug down the track, hope that you smoke the tires or put a hole out or make a mistake, and chug past you. If you're John Force, you down tune that thing to 397, send it down there. I mean, maybe there was a mechanical issue. You know what? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe something happened with the car, considering that Robert Height just smoked the tires right in front of them. Maybe something happened with the car, and that's what took place. I don't know. What I do know is you shouldn't be losing to Alex Laughlin in the first round, John Force. Not with that backing, not with that equipment, not with that sponsorship. You should not be losing to Alex Laughlin in round one. Should not be happening. No reason to have the car that pumped up, that hitting that hard against that car. Alex Laughlin, that is, the Jim Dunn car. So, he was gone round one. Alex, who made it to the semifinals, guess Robert had to do John's dirty work, took him out, 393 to Lawson's 420. But, yeah, all those Force fans thinking that there might be another championship on the horizon. Not this year, it won't be. I mean, he's barely ahead of Laughlin in the points. He's only around ahead of Laughlin in the points, if that. Other guys in points, I mean, and credit to Alex Laughlin. Alex Laughlin is ahead of Cruz Petragon in points. Who saw that coming? Cruz Petragon is 11th in points. Alex Laughlin is 10th. John Force is 9th. I mean, at the rate we're going, sheesh. Cruz, well, that's another story for another day, folks. Does anyone even remember seeing Cruz Petragon's car over the weekend? I don't. That's because he was gone the first round. He lost to Tim Wilkerson, 482 to a 391. Cruz qualified 10th. Cruz, along with me, probably fooled a lot of people at the end of Pomona last year when the car ran so great. They brought in Lee Beard, it ran these great numbers, and everyone felt, okay, Cruz is going to be a factor. I had Cruz as a top 5 player this year, I will admit. Cruz is 11th in points. So much what I was thinking and hoping for. And I like Cruz. Cruz is a great guy, great racer. This just ain't his year. The last few years haven't been his year. Hopefully that team can turn around before the season ends. Maybe win a race or two. Doesn't look like it. But we'll see. Once again, congratulations to Bob Tasca for winning the Betway NHRA Carolina Nationals. At this moment, second in points, 25 behind Robert Height, Ron Capps, Matt Hagan. Those are your 4 in my mind. Height, Tasca, Capps, Hagan. We'll see what happens after that, but those are the 4. I don't see anyone coming from below there, sticking their head into the fight. I see those guys maybe upsetting one of those guys at a race or two, but when we get to Pomona, it's going to be those 4 cars. Just my thoughts. That's all I'm doing is getting my thoughts. Pro stock. Greg Anderson. Now, I spoke on Greg, I believe it was last week. And in so many words, I said that we all know that at any given time, Greg Anderson can win a race. Any given moment. He has that kind of car. He's that kind of driver. At any given moment, he can win a race. And I also said he was kind of floundering there in the points. The car didn't look, you just never know. Greg did what Greg has done a lot of times. Rose up when it mattered most and won the race. Qualified 5th. Not bad. Qualified in the top 5. Round 1, he goes 655, beats Jerry Tucker 660. Round 2, 656, beat Christian Quadras 965. Then it was against Erica, the race everyone loves to see. Greg versus Erica, arch rivals, elite, KB Titan. Doesn't get any better. Championships galore between the both of them. 654 for Greg, 659 for Erica. She was 029. Greg was 043. Greg then went to the finals against Dallas Glenn. 655 for Greg, 659 for Dallas. Greg was 018 on the tree in the final. He was ready. Greg gets the win at the Betway NHRA Carolina Nationals, a win he needed. And if there was ever a time to need a win, it was now. Perfect timing, Greg. Perfect timing. This is a win you needed. And if you were going to make a run for this championship, this is when you had to do it. Now was the time, and he stepped up and most definitely did it. That has now moved Greg into 4th in the standings, only 61 back of Matt Hartford. He is now a player. But in pro stock, there's a lot of players. I mean, we got 8 cars within 100 points. Matt Hartford, your points leader. Matt didn't have the weekend he had that he was hoping for. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. It just a weekend. Qualified 8th, but in pro stock, I mean, anywhere in the top 10, you can still get a win. These cars run so close within each other, within hundredths of a second of each other. Doesn't so much matter as much as it does just leaving on time. Him and Fernando Quadra Jr. had a tire shake contest. Matt goes 812. Fernando goes 1189. Matt then goes to the second round against Erica Enders. Matt, 656 with a 4. Erica, 656 with a 7. Matt ran quicker, but Matt was slower off the tree. 045 light for Matt. 015 light for Erica. That ended Matt Hartford's day. Thanks to Greg beating Erica, Matt did continue to hold on to his points lead by a slim margin. 4 points over Erica. Hey, a lead's a lead. Take it however you can get it. I'm sure that's not the way they want the weekend to end, especially losing on a whole shot. But it still served notice that Matt Hartford is still going to be a guy to contend with over these next 4 races. If he can just fix that clutch foot and leave on time, Matt Hartford's definitely going to be there. Dallas Glenn, welcome back. Missed you there the last couple races. 15 points out of first, third in points. Loses to Greg Anderson in the finals. Nothing to hold your head up. Nothing to be ashamed of about that. It's Greg Anderson. Teammate at that. Can't get mad at that. Qualified on the 11th. Round one. 658 to Troy Coughlin Jr. 656, but Dallas Glenn being Dallas Glenn, he was 012 on the tree to Troy Coughlin's 051. Dallas then goes 005 against Aaron Stanfield, which Dallas didn't even need a 005. He went 659 to Aaron Stanfield's troubling 766 run. He then went against Derek Kramer, who left before the switch was even activated on the tree. Dallas goes 661. He was 032 on the line. Kramer had red lid, and as we spoke on earlier, he went 659, losing to Greg Anderson 655, runner-up finish. The car was not as consistent, I'm sure, as Dallas had wanted it to be, but the driver was. The driver got him there. And in pro stock, sometimes that's all it takes. He's third in points. He's 15 out. We'll see how these next four races goes. If he can run like he did earlier in the season, if he can continue that consistency with that performance, I believe Dallas Glenn will have his name in the bucket in Pomona for a championship. Erica Enders, who's second in points, you know she isn't going anywhere. She started off slow and everyone was wondering where is Erica. Well, she's turned it on over the last few races. And despite losing in the semifinals to Greg Anderson, I mean, she qualified number one, went 654, beat Mason McGahey in the first round. Whole shot went over Matt Hartford in the first round. Granted, she was only 3,000 slower. Lost to Greg Anderson in the semis. We all know Erica's going to be there. If the car's there and she's there, and they're usually in tandem, she's going to be there. Even if the car's a little off, as it was against Matt Hartford, she ran slower. Erica can drive like no other, and we all know that. I mean, no one wants to match Erica Enders on the tree. Maybe Dallas Glenn. That's about it. The Quadras will try, but they'll go double or go red. You know how that goes. So between those guys, between the guys and gals, Matt Hartford, Erica Enders, Dallas Glenn, and Greg Anderson, I certainly look for more things from all of those teams in the next four races. It'll be interesting to see if Greg can keep this performance and consistency going. You're 61 out right now, Greg, but we're going to have to see it over the next 3-4 races to see if you can keep that going. He has not really shown that throughout the season. Though he did get the win, consistency is what matters in this countdown. Troy Coughlin Jr., 5th in points. Troy Coughlin Jr. did not have a weekend that he was hoping for. He was gone in the first round. 656 to Dallas Glenn, 658 on a whole shot loss. He was 051 on the tree. You cannot be 051 against anyone in pro stock, let alone Dallas Glenn, Troy. It's just not going to happen. More than likely, you're not going to get the win. And he didn't. And he was gone first round. And now he's back in the points because of it. Now he's 5th. 64 out. Not that bad considering Pomona pays 30 per round. You would think that Troy is going to be a factor, like some other guys over the next 3 to 4 races. His cars run too good and too consistent not to. He just had a oopsie there on the starting line where he was dead late. If he can pick that up and get his clutch foot back going and leave it on time, I think Troy Coughlin is going to be a player. I see right now, I see 4 cars being a factor when we get to Pomona. Matt Hartford, who's had a great car all year. Erica Enders, who you can never count out. Dallas Glenn, because even if the car's not there, his clutch foot is. Troy Coughlin Jr. Greg Anderson, I need to see more. Though he's 4th in points, though he got a much needed win, I'm going to need to see more. I'm going to need to see more to see if Greg can actually show the consistency and the performance week in and week out over the next 4 races to throw his head in the bucket for this championship. I would like to see him there. It must be greater when Greg's there. We all know he's one of the greatest pro stock racers ever. He has not shown that so much this year, but If there was ever good right time, it was now, and he did. Aaron Stanfield, 6 in points. We haven't really heard much of Aaron this year. He's there, but he's not there. He beat Eric Lantino in the first round, 659 or 667. He was gone round 2 to Dallas Glenn. You don't really know what to say about Aaron because you don't know what his car is going to do or what he's going to do. I mean, he's a car that can go to the final round at every race, but he's also a car that can be gone by the second round of every race. And right now, where he's at in the points, 6 in points, 85 back. I mean, at this point, you got him, Derek Kramer, and Kyle Koretsky. Aaron being 6, Kramer being 7, Koretsky being 8th. And Koretsky's 99 points out, less than 100. Either of those 3 cars can win on any given weekend. Consistency is a key factor with those 3 cars. And I'm not sure because Pro Stock is so unpredictable, probably more unpredictable than any of the 2 fuel classes. I mean, 1 red light here, 1 whole shot lost there, changes the whole dynamics of everything. Yeah, I'm really just not sure about Aaron Stanfield or Derek Kramer or Kyle Koretsky on where they're going to end up at. Koretsky had a good weekend the weekend before at his home track that they own in Reading, but he lost to Derek Kramer first round. Qualified 7, 658 to Kramer 657. Thanks for coming, Kyle. Kramer then goes to the next round, beats Cameron Caruso on a whole shot, 659 or 658. He was 024 on a tree. Camry was 049. And then, like I said, it looked like he left before the tree was even activated. That was probably a line lock or a brake pressure issue. I'm not really sure. Can't believe he was just that early. He's been racing Pro Stock cars for too long to be negative 115 on the tree when he lost to Dallas Glenn. Once again, not a bad weekend for Derek. He's 87 out. Kyle's 99 out. Camry's 128 out. Camry's had a great year. She won earlier this season. I don't know if she's going to be a factor for – no, I do know. She's not going to be a factor for the championship this year. She might ruin some feelings. She might hurt some people. She might take some people out early who didn't plan on getting beat early. But as far as throwing her name in the hat in Pomona, no. I see Matt, Erica, Dallas, Troy right now. Greg's going to need to show me something. And you just kind of never know what you're going to get from Kyle, Derek, and Stanfield. But we'll see. We will see. Erica Enders has a teammate, Bo Butner. He's 11th in points. How about that? Who would ever saw that happening? Bo Butner, 11th in points. Pro Stock Motorcycle. Gage Herrera. Yeah, Gage Herrera. He's done what he's done quite a few times this year. More than any Pro Stock motorcycle rider this year. He won. Qualified number 1 by a large margin. And pretty much blew away the competition all weekend. I mean, it really wasn't even close. Round number 1, 670 to Jerry Savoy, 695. Savoy went red. Didn't even matter. Round number 2, 674 to Matt Smith, 788. Now, the thing with Matt Smith and Gage Herrera, because it's the race that everyone wants to see, we have really yet to see a race when neither of their bikes have had a problem. On this particular run in the second round, Matt Smith's bike had a problem, which is why he ran a 788 at only 122 miles an hour. When they raced before, Gage's bike has had a problem. And Matt's bike broke on the start line at Sonoma. We have yet to see both bikes line up, mano a mano, 100% horsepower all the way to the finish line. We have not seen that yet. We're waiting on it, but something always happens to one of these guys' bikes when they line up against each other. Unfortunate, but true. Gage then went on to the semifinals, 675 to Chase Van Sant, 686. Van Sant was negative 043 on the tree. It didn't matter anyway. And then final round, Hector Arana Jr., 672, 038 on the tree for Gage Herrera. Hector does what Hector does, which is what I've always said. He's either early or he's late. He goes early, negative 076 on the tree, red light, 977 left laps time. Thanks for coming. Gage Herrera holds the trophy, takes over the points lead. Enough said. Great weekend for Gage. Exactly what that team needed. Matt Smith, on the other hand, loses his point lead, falls 52 behind. I'm not, you had to think that Matt did not plan on qualifying in the 9th position and having to run Gage Herrera in the second round. I would think, and I'm sure I know, that Matt would have liked to see Gage in the semifinals or the finals, not that early in the day. Unfortunate. It probably wouldn't have mattered who he raced, being that the bike broke, whether it was Gage Herrera or John Hall. It wouldn't have mattered. The bike broke in the second round. So it is what it is. But Matt's now second in points. By no means out of it. Hector Arana Jr. is third, 54 out, 2 points behind Matt Smith. Hector Arana Jr., as I spoke on earlier, you already know he's either early or he's late. Round 1, 678 to Steve Johnson, who they got an APB out on Steve Johnson because we don't know where him or his bike went. He has been a no-show the last few races. 678 for Hector, 694 for Steve. Hector then goes against Angie Smith, 687, but he was 003 on the tree. Angie, 091 and goes 683, runs much quicker, but 091, you cannot be 091 on a pro stock motorcycle and expect to get the win. I'm sure Angie knows that. Matt knows that. I'm sure she is still kicking herself over that one. Hector then goes to the semifinals where he beats Eddie Krawick, a 681 to a 685. Hector was 017, Krawick was 024. And like we spoke on a moment ago, Hector loses in the finals when he goes red and gives the race to Gage Herrera, who was going to probably win anyway. I've said it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Hector has a bike that can win a championship. Hector is just not a rider who's going to win a championship. He's either early or he's late. And he's been like that his whole career. I'm not making anything up. Go check the numbers. Fourth in points, Eddie Krawick, 104 back. And to me, that's where the line is drawn. If you're anything below Eddie, you're just a fill-in at this point. We know Eddie has a bike. He's Gage's teammate. He can win a race on every given weekend. Why is his bike so much slower than Gage's? Beats me. I have no idea. I don't know if he's in blocker mode or what the case is, but if that's the case, he's been blocker mode the whole season. Eddie didn't have a bad weekend. He hasn't really had too many bad weekends. He's just doesn't win. Round 1, 679, beats Ron Tunero. Round 2, beats Kelly Klontz, 682 to Klontz at 695. Loses to Hector with a 685 to Hector 681. Made it to the semis, nothing to hang your head about. Fence and Hines showed themselves. They're strong. One bike wins, one bike loses in the semis. I mean, let's just be honest. This is going to be the Gage Herrera Matt Smith show and possibly Hector Arana Jr. Even though Hector won't win it, he'll just be there. He won't win it. I'm telling you right now, Hector Arana Jr. will not win the championship. The bike is very capable of, but the driver isn't. The rider, I should say, isn't. Chase Van Sant. Well, let's see. Angie Smith. Sorry about that. Angie Smith, 5th in points, 133 back. Angie got on the other bike, the black bike that Chip Ellis was riding. It didn't seem to make a difference. It seemed that the bike that Chip was on was even faster than one that she was on. She lost on the whole shot, which we spoke on a moment ago. She went 684 in round 1 to beat Chris Bostic. Lost to Hector Arana Jr. in the second round. I don't know what she's trying to play games with Hector on the starting line. I know they both took a long time to get fully staged. It came to bite her in the backside. I'm sure that's one she wants back. But at the end of the day, you just got to be better than that. You got to be better than that. And I can pretty much say there'll be no championship for Angie Smith this year. She hasn't had one any year, but it definitely is not happening this year. Too far back, too many bikes to climb over. She's now become blocker number 2 for Matt Smith. Her and Chip Ellis both. Chip Ellis, speaking of Chip, qualified 5th, 679 in the first round. Went 004 negative red in the second round for what? I don't know. Shut off early to a 691. That bike was going to probably run a low 680. Lost to Chase Van Sant. Didn't matter. He lost when he red lit. But he was on Angie's bike this weekend. And he was riding Angie's bike better than Angie rides that bike. What does that say? Enough said. Gianna Espiriso, 7th. Steve Johnson, we got APB out on him. Don't know where he's at in life. 8th. Gianna's weekend, it was it wasn't great. Qualified 7th and was gone round 1. Not that the bike ran poorly. She ran a 689. Kelly Klontz just ran better, a 688. She was 031 on the tree. Klontz was 036. That's drag racing. Thanks for coming. Once again, as the points stand right now in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage is leading. Matt Smith is 2nd, 52 out. Hector's 3rd, 54. And Eddie is 4th. I don't see anyone below them making any noise over the next 4 races. It's going to pretty much be a duke out between those 4 bikes. I see blockers upsetting maybe one of these guys. Well, Chip Ellis is not, and Angie Smith is not going to upset Matt Smith. It's not going to happen. We all know why. But I can see Chip Ellis or Angie Smith upsetting Gage Herrera or Hector Arana or Eddie Krawick. It's just the way the game is played. Eddie's a blocker too. Though he's 104 out at this point, he's more than likely a blocker for Gage. 4 races left. A lot of points to be earned. We'll see. Thank you for listening, everybody. Mike D, RPMHD. Just giving you a recap of NHRA, Betway, Carolina Nationals. My thoughts, my opinions. Not that they matter, but hey, why not voice them? Someone has to. Everyone else does. Sitting here live, enjoying this beautiful Tuesday evening. I want to thank all you folks for tuning in. Once again, I will see you guys next time. I believe they're in St. Louis. I will definitely have my thoughts on the St. Louis race. Until then, folks, thank you for listening and have a great evening.